Good afternoon. Peace be with you. It's still April 16. This is, I believe, video 8. Thanks, brother, for checking me out and correcting that when I labeled number 7, number 6. I appreciate you for that. May Allah bless you for that. Thank you. I believe I'm on 8 now. Okay. The Beatles had come to America. I started losing my hair all over. And the story continues. At the same time, all this was going on, I increased my search into various religions because of my experience within the Jewish infrastructure of both the temple and the society of Jews where we lived, adult and teenage, and I found both to be less than what I had learned at home in my childhood from my parents. Yes, my parents taught me that I was of the chosen people, but they did not instill in me the attitude and carriage of haughty superiority that I felt from many other Jews. I never felt that from my parents, never. To my parents, to be of the chosen people meant that we had a responsibility to uphold the best of humanity, to be an example for humanity, not to strut around like we were better than other people. It was a duty more than a privilege to be chosen. There were a few folks who were like my parents, some wealthy and some hardworking middle class, but their attitudes were the same, warm, friendly, accepting of others, without any judgment or materialistic standard to have to satisfy. Mention. These few were friends of the family. My parents taught me that friends are few and acquaintances can be many. So true. My father always said, don't use the term friend loosely. You can use acquaintance for that term, people you know, but they're not at that level of friend. So, anyway. I began to question Judaism, since many of the kids who taunted me or shunned me because of my condition and appearance happened to be Jewish. They were not born that way, so they had to have learned that in their homes, to shun those who were different than them. Some of them were considered to be from the families of the cream of the society and wealth, education, status that can be bought by big donations, resulting in front row seats in the temple on the high holidays. They had it all going on, except for the attribute that my parents had taught me at home about what religion is all about, particularly to my mother, character. It was because of this and because of the show that was my bar mitzvah, I began to question my religion. I was meeting some very kind kids at school who befriended me despite my condition and appearance, who were not Jewish. They seemed to have a different attitude, a more accepting and compassionate way of being towards other people, not as closed off, not having that superior attitude that I felt in so many of the affluent Jewish kids. Not all of them, but many of them. My family was always economically middle class. We always had enough of everything we needed. We never went without. And my adolescent years were spent in large part in New England, where there were many wealthy Jews in the community. A handful of them were kind and down-home Menschlichkeit, as my mother would call down-to-earth people, but the element of the other kind was palpable, and their attitudes and behaviors stuck in my mind and in my craw. They thought they were better than others for all the wrong reasons. This superior attitude was also thick among many of the Orthodox Jews who we also knew, who held themselves above, better, holier than the rest of humanity. By no means does this include all Jews, but it included enough for me to have a bad and memorable experience. I understood why so many Gentiles, non-Jews, did not like Jews, not because they were Jewish, but because they were arrogant and acted superior. And that kind of Jews gave the whole group a bad reputation. When I learned about Zionism, which has nothing to do with the religion of Judaism, but claims it like a wolf wears a sheep's fleece, I understood the depth of the deception that creates much of the discord between Jews and non-Jews. So there I was, preparing for college in the mid-1960s, having lost most of my hair, heading back to Missouri to attend the university in the Midwest, University of Missouri, coming out of New England, where people were generally kinder and friendlier Actually, let me correct myself. I didn't go straight from Connecticut to Missouri. There were some other places in between. I was in New Jersey when I went to college, but it was still East Coast. It was still New York area, metropolitan area, East Coast. Okay. All right. Let me back up a second. So there I was, preparing for college in the mid-60s, having lost most of my hair, heading back to Missouri to attend the University of Missouri in the Midwest, where people were generally kinder and friendlier than on the East Coast. I was wiser and more open from my experiences for losing my hair, for questioning world events, and for questioning my religion. Many questions were still unanswered, but I felt good inside knowing that those questions were alive in me and confident that the answers would come in time. Being chosen is a responsibility, not a privilege. I'll never forget the feeling my father telegraphed to me through his eyes and his few words on his deathbed in 2013 as he described his experiences of appearance versus reality, of going to the temple faithfully every morning he was able in his later years for the early morning prayers with a handful of 10 men, only to be assigned to a wooden or metal folding chair in an overflow annex of the main temple, the gym or basketball court with TV monitors on the Jewish high holidays, or Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the New Year and Day of Atonement. There he would sit in his 80s and 90s, while those who donated the most money but seldom came to pray sat in the seats of honor in the front rows of the main temple sanctuary, nearest to the Torah. My father knew the hypocrisy up close and personal. I felt his deep hurt and sense of betrayal that he felt, not from Allah but from people, his fellow Jews, as he lay there sharing his honest feelings while his life was gently coming to a close. To be continued.